Red lace teddy, size small, $890. That's what my husband bought his mistress with my money. And I returned it to her, at her family reunion, in front of 100 people, including her daddy, the judge. Let me say that again so you understand exactly what happened. I walked into the Montgomery family reunion, the most prestigious black family in Atlanta, with a gift-wrapped box containing the lingerie my husband purchased for his side piece. And I handed it to her while she was standing at the microphone, about to announce their engagement. Their engagement. To my husband, who was still very much married. To me. My name is Veronica Pierce. I'm 38 years old. I'm a forensic accountant. That means I track money for a living. I catch cheaters and liars professionally. I find hidden accounts, trace stolen funds, and expose people who think they're smarter than the paper trail they leave behind. My husband knew what I did for work. He watched me build cases that put people in prison. He sat across the dinner table while I explained how I caught a CFO hiding $3 million in offshore accounts. And then this man decided to cheat on me with my credit card. Baby, that was the dumbest decision he ever made. For 2 years, Damon thought he was slick. 2 years of hotel rooms, fancy dinners, jewelry, and yes, that $890 La Perla teddy. He spent $47,000 on this woman. $47,000. While I paid every single bill in our household, while I raised our son, while I worked 60-hour weeks building my career, he told her he was leaving me, told her he owned our house, told her he was the breadwinner and I was just some boring workaholic who neglected him. What he didn't tell her, the house is in my name. I bought it with my inheritance. I make 3 times his salary, and he's $50,000 in debt. Crystal Montgomery thought she was getting a successful businessman. What she was actually getting was a broke liar with a negative net worth and a wife who keeps receipts. Every single receipt. If you want to watch a forensic accountant burn down a cheating husband and his mistress at her own family party, hit that subscribe button right now. I promise you this story is worth it. Like this video if you believe karma is real. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I want to know how far this story travels because every woman who's ever been cheated on deserves to hear what happens when you mess with the wrong one. Now let me take you back 6 months, back to when I first knew something wasn't right. Back to when the man I'd loved for 10 years started leaving clues he thought I'd never find. He forgot who he married. 6 months ago, if you had asked me about my marriage, I would have smiled and told you everything was fine. That's what we do, isn't it? We smile. We perform, we hold it together because falling apart isn't an option. From the outside, we had the perfect life. 4-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood, 2 cars in the driveway, a 12-year-old son making honor roll, matching outfits at church on Sunday, the kind of family people point to and say, now that's what black love looks like. But here's what I've learned about perfect marriages. Sometimes perfect is just performance, and I had been performing for longer than I wanted to admit. I met Damon at a church charity event when we were both 26. He was charming, ambitious, dressed well, spoke well, and made me laugh until my stomach hurt. He talked about his plans to climb the corporate ladder, talked about building a legacy, talked about wanting a partner, not just a wife. I fell for all of it. We got married when I was 28. I was fresh off finishing my MBA, just starting my career at the accounting firm. My grandmother had passed the year before and left me $200,000. Her dying wish was simple. Baby, buy yourself a house and don't put no man's name on it, not ever. You hear me? Your name only. I heard her. I bought a house for $380,000, put my inheritance down as the down payment, put my name on the deed, only my name, just like she told me. Damon didn't argue about it at the time. He said he understood. Said his credit wasn't where it needed to be anyway. Said once his business took off, he'd buy us an even bigger house and put both our names on it. That was 10 years ago. We're still in my house. And his business never took off. Not the first one, not the second one, not the third one. I funded all 3 of them. $30,000 here, $45,000 there, $25,000 more to try one last time. Every single one failed within a year, but I didn't complain. That's what good wives do, right? Support their husbands, believe in their dreams, hold them down while they figure it out. So I held him down. I paid the mortgage. I paid the utilities. I paid for the cars. I paid for our son's private school. I paid for groceries, vacations, clothes, everything. My salary covered this entire household, while Damon chased dreams that never materialized. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being his partner and became his provider, his banker, his safety net. The worst part, I didn't even realize it was happening. I was too busy working, too busy being the strong black woman who handles everything and complains about nothing, too busy keeping up the performance that everything was fine. But everything was not fine. The cracks started showing about 3 years ago, little things at first. Damon working late more often, which was strange because what exactly was he working on? He hadn't brought home a consistent paycheck in years. His phone was always face down on the table. He started going to a new gym downtown, fancy one, not the one near our house. New cologne I didn't buy, new clothes I didn't purchase. And then there was the distance. We used to talk for hours, used to laugh together, used to actually enjoy each other's company. Now we were just two people living in the same house, passing each other in hallways, sleeping in the same bed, but a million miles apart. The intimacy faded first, then the conversation, then the eye contact. He looked through me instead of at me. I told myself it was stress, told myself that marriage has seasons and we were just in a cold one, told myself that all couples go through rough patches after a decade together. I told myself a lot of lies because the truth was too terrifying to consider. But the truth doesn't care if you're ready for it. It comes anyway. It came on a Tuesday evening in the form of a credit card statement I wasn't supposed to see. It was a Tuesday in October. I remember because Tuesdays are my easy days at the office. Light workload, time to catch up on paperwork. I usually get home by 6 instead of 8. That Tuesday I came home early because I wasn't feeling well. Headache that wouldn't quit. The kind of exhaustion that sits in your bones and won't let go. I'd been running myself ragged for months, working overtime, managing the household, being everything to everyone. The house was quiet when I walked in. Jasper was at basketball practice. Damon's car wasn't in the driveway, which wasn't unusual. He was always somewhere. I never asked where anymore because the answers were always vague. Networking, meeting with a potential client, working on a new opportunity. I made myself some tea, sat down at the kitchen table, and decided to pay some bills. Routine stuff. Mortgage was on autopay, but I like to check the accounts manually. Old habit from my job. You'd be surprised how much fraud hides in plain sight because people don't check their own statements. I logged into our joint account and immediately noticed something was wrong. The balance was $1,200. $1,200 in an account that should have had over $6,000. My paycheck had been deposited 4 days earlier. Where did the money go? My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. See, when you spend 12 years tracking financial fraud, your brain doesn't panic. It calculates. It investigates. It follows the money. I pulled up the transaction history. ATM withdrawal $1,500. 2 days ago. Location was downtown near Damon's fancy gym. ATM withdrawal $2,000. Last week, same area. ATM withdrawal $1,000. The week before that, $4,500. Gone in less than a month. I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen. $4,500. For what? He didn't have business expenses because he didn't have a business. He didn't have an office to rent or employees to pay. What could he possibly need $4,500 in cash for? Then I started scrolling further back, and that's when my stomach dropped. La Perla, $890. 3 months ago. I know La Perla. It's a high-end lingerie store, the kind of place where a single bra costs more than most people's grocery bills. I had never bought anything from La Perla. I hadn't treated myself to nice lingerie in years because who had time? Who had energy? I clicked on the charge to see more details. The receipt was itemized. 1 red lace teddy, size small, size small. I'm 5'9". I haven't been a size small since I was in middle school. And I certainly don't wear red lace teddies. Not anymore. Not when my husband hasn't touched me with genuine desire in over a year. But someone was wearing them. Someone size small, someone who wasn't me. I kept scrolling. Tiffany & Company, $2,400 2 months ago. I didn't receive any jewelry 2 months ago. My birthday wasn't until spring. 4 Seasons Hotel, $650. A Tuesday afternoon. I was at work that Tuesday. I remembered because I'd had a difficult client meeting that ran late, an upscale restaurant I'd never been to. $380. Another one. $420. Another one. $510. Over and over and over. Charges I didn't recognize. Charges for things I never received. Charges that painted a picture so clear I couldn't pretend not to see it anymore. My husband was having an affair, and he was funding it with my money. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything or call anyone. I just sat there at my kitchen table drinking cold tea, letting the reality wash over me. 10 years of marriage, 12 years together total. A son we were raising, a life we were supposed to be building, and he threw it all away for La Perla lingerie and hotel rooms I was paying for. In that moment, something shifted inside me. The part of me that made excuses, that gave second chances, that believed the best in people even when they showed me their worst. That part went quiet, and the forensic accountant woke up. I pulled out my phone and started taking screenshots. Every charge, every withdrawal, every suspicious transaction going back 18 months. I created a hidden folder and saved everything. Rule number 1 of forensic accounting: never alert the suspect. Let them keep spending. The trail gets longer. The evidence mounts. By the time you confront them, your case is airtight. Damon had no idea what he started. He thought he was cheating on his wife. He was actually building a case against himself, and I was going to let him keep building it until I had everything I needed. I heard the garage door open around 8. Damon walked in, looking relaxed, looking content, looking like a man without a care in the world. "Hey, babe," he said, setting his keys on the counter. "You're home early." "Wasn't feeling well," I replied, my voice completely even. "How was your day?" "Long, client meetings. You know how it is." I watched him pour himself a drink. Noticed he was wearing a new tie, pale blue silk. I didn't buy that tie. "Nice tie," I said casually. "Is that new?" He glanced down like he'd forgotten what he was wearing. "Oh, this... got it a while back. You've seen it before." No, I hadn't. I buy all his ties. I know every single one in his closet. That tie was new, and now I knew he was a liar. "Must have forgotten," I said with a small smile. "Dinner's in the oven if you're hungry." He kissed me on the forehead. A dry, obligatory peck. The kind of kiss you give your aunt, not your wife. "Thanks, babe. I'm actually beat. Might just shower and crash early." I nodded and let him go. Let him walk upstairs thinking everything was fine, thinking his boring workaholic wife suspected nothing. That was his first mistake. His second mistake was underestimating how patient I could be. I wasn't going to confront him with partial evidence and give him a chance to explain it away. I wasn't going to have a messy fight that ended with him promising to do better and me believing him. No. I was going to find out exactly who this woman was. I was going to document every dollar he spent. I was going to build a case so solid that when I finally made my move, he wouldn't have a single leg to stand on. And then I was going to destroy him, not out of anger, not out of revenge, out of respect for myself. Because I spent a decade being the perfect wife, the provider, the backbone, the one who held everything together while he chased dreams and apparently other women. I deserved better than this. And I was going to take back everything he thought he could steal from me. Starting with the truth. The next morning I did something I should have done years ago. I called my cousin Shelley, Michelle Warren. We call her Shelley, 40 years old, former police detective who left the force to start her own private investigation firm. The woman can find out what you had for breakfast 3 Tuesdays ago if she puts her mind to it. She answered on the second ring. "Ronnie, it's 7 in the morning. You okay?" "I need your help," I said, keeping my voice low, even though Damon had already left for wherever he goes during the day. "Professional help." There was a pause. Then Shelley's voice changed, got sharper, more focused. "Damon, how'd you know?" She sighed. "Girl, I've been waiting for this call for 2 years. That hit me like a punch to the chest. 2 years, you knew. I suspected. Wasn't going to say anything until you were ready to hear it. You know how that goes. People don't listen until they're ready. She was right. If Shelley had come to me 2 years ago with suspicions, I would have defended Damon, made excuses, convinced myself she was wrong. "I'm ready now," I said. I found charges on our joint account. Lingerie, jewelry, hotels, restaurants. Thousands of dollars over the past 18 months. None of it was for me. Send me everything you have. Screenshots, statements, all of it. I'll start digging today. Within the hour, I'd emailed her every piece of financial evidence I'd gathered, and then I went to work and pretended everything was normal. That's the thing about investigating someone you live with. You have to be an actor. Every smile, every kiss on the cheek, every "how was your day" has to seem genuine while you're silently documenting their betrayal. Shelley called me back 3 days later. "You sitting down? Just tell me." Her name is Crystal Montgomery. I wrote it down. Crystal Montgomery. The woman sleeping with my husband had a name now. "What do you know about her? 32 years old, calls herself a lifestyle influencer, has about 15,000 followers, which means she makes no real money from it, lives in a nice apartment in Buckhead that she definitely can't afford on her own." So someone's paying her bills. Multiple someones, probably, but Damon's definitely one of them. I cross-referenced his gym membership with the member roster. She belongs to the same gym. That's where they met. The gym, his fancy new downtown gym that he joined 2 years ago, the one I thought was just about his midlife crisis fitness kick. Turns out it was where he went hunting. "It gets better," Shelley continued. "Her family. Girl, wait until you hear this. Her daddy is Judge Harold Montgomery." I almost dropped my phone. Judge Montgomery, the one who handles family court cases. The very same, old money family. Her mama Patricia is some kind of socialite. They do charity galas, country club memberships, the whole nine. Crystal's the youngest daughter, never worked a real job. Lives off her family's name and whatever men she can attach herself to. So my husband wasn't just cheating. He was cheating with the daughter of a powerful family. A family that probably had no idea their princess was involved with a married man. What else? I tailed him for 3 days, got photos. My heart clenched. Photos. Him and Crystal at restaurants, walking into her apartment building, his hand on her waist, her leaning into him, laughing together. Intimate stuff. You want to see them? Did I want to see my husband touching another woman, looking at her the way he used to look at me? No. But I needed to. Send them. When the photos came through, I was in my office with the door closed. I swiped through them one by one. There was Damon in a suit I didn't recognize holding the door open for Crystal at some upscale restaurant. There he was with his arm around her outside a building I didn't know. There they were walking down Peachtree Street, her hand in his back pocket like they were teenagers. She was pretty. I'll give her that. Young, slim, the kind of woman who clearly spent hours on her appearance. Designer bag, perfect makeup, confident smile. Looking at her didn't make me sad. It made me curious. What had he told her about me? What lies had he spun to make himself seem like the victim? And what exactly had he promised her? Shelley answered that question 3 days later. I got into his cloud account. Don't ask me how. I didn't ask. Text messages going back 8 months. Want me to read you some? Go ahead. Shelley cleared her throat. From Damon to Crystal last month. Quote, "Baby, I can't wait to be done with this. She's so boring, so focused on work. All she cares about is her career." Boring. After everything I'd done for him. After funding his failures and raising his son and keeping a roof over his head. I was boring. Crystal's response, Shelley continued. "When are you leaving her? You promised by summer." Damon's reply. "Soon. I'm working on it. Getting my finances in order. Then we can be together officially." Getting his finances in order. That phrase echoed in my head. What finances? He didn't have any finances. Everything was in my name. The house, the cars, the investment accounts. His 401k was nearly empty because he'd borrowed against it twice. Then it clicked. He wasn't getting his finances in order. He was trying to figure out how to get his hands on mine. He was planning to leave me probably file for divorce and try to take half of everything I'd built. The house I bought with my grandmother's money, the savings I'd accumulated over 2 decades of work, the retirement accounts I'd funded alone. He thought he could walk away with half of my life. Oh, this man had lost his mind. "There's more," Shelley said. "He told her he owns the house. Told her he's the breadwinner and you're just some workaholic who neglects him and Jasper. Told her he handles all the finances and you wouldn't survive without him." I laughed, actually laughed out loud. "He said what?" "Baby, he's been lying to this woman about everything. She thinks she's getting a successful businessman with a big house and money in the bank. She has no idea he hasn't held a steady job in years, no idea you pay for everything, no idea that without you he'd be living in his mama's basement." Crystal Montgomery thought she was upgrading. She thought she was trading up from whatever men she'd been with before to a successful, stable provider. She had no idea she was getting a con artist with a negative net worth and a wife who was about to take everything back. "One more thing," Shelley said. "The Montgomery family reunion is in 3 weeks. Annual event at the country club. Crystal's been telling people she has a big announcement to make." Let me guess. Engagement. That's my assumption. She probably thinks he's going to propose, or they're going to announce that they're together officially. But he's still married to me. Facts don't seem to matter much to these two. I sat with that information for a long moment. 3 weeks. Crystal was planning to announce her engagement to my husband in 3 weeks, at her family reunion, in front of her daddy, the judge, and her socialite mama, and all the Montgomery relatives. She was going to stand in front of 100 people and declare her love for a married man. A man who'd been lying to her almost as much as he'd been lying to me. That's when the plan started forming in my head. She wanted to make an announcement. Fine. I'd make one too. Over the next week, I learned everything there was to know about Crystal Montgomery. I studied her social media like I was preparing for a final exam. Every photo, every caption, every tagged location. The woman documented her entire life online, which made Shelley's job a lot easier. Crystal Michelle Montgomery, born and raised in Atlanta, attended a private girls' school where tuition costs more than most people's annual salary. Went to Spelman for 2 years before dropping out to pursue her influencer career. That influencer career consisted of posting photos of brunches, handbags, and inspirational quotes about living your best life. She had 15,000 followers, which sounds impressive until you realize that doesn't translate to actual income. Her lifestyle was funded entirely by other people, her parents mostly. And now, apparently, my husband. Her family was exactly what you'd expect from old Atlanta money. The Montgomerys had been prominent in black society for 3 generations. Grandmother Eleanor had married well and spent 60 years building the family name through philanthropy and social climbing. Judge Harold Montgomery was respected throughout the legal community. His wife Patricia served on the boards of every charity that mattered. They were the kind of family that measured worth by reputation. Image was everything. Scandal was unthinkable, which made Crystal's affair with my husband particularly interesting. Did they know? Did Judge Montgomery have any idea his youngest daughter was sleeping with a married man? Did Patricia know her baby girl was the other woman in someone else's marriage? I doubted it. People like the Montgomerys don't tolerate scandal. They bury it. They cover it up. They pretend it doesn't exist. Crystal had probably told them Damon was divorced, or separated, or single. Whatever lie made it acceptable for her to bring him around. The more I dug, the more I understood the full picture. Damon met Crystal at the gym 2 years ago. She was young, pretty impressed by his charm and his talk of business ventures. He saw an opportunity, a beautiful woman from a wealthy family, an in to the Montgomery network, a chance to finally become the success he'd always pretended to be. Their affair started as flirtation, escalated to lunches, then dinners, then hotel rooms, all funded by the joint account he thought I wasn't monitoring. At some point, Damon started selling her a dream. He told her he was unhappy in his marriage, told her his wife was cold, distant, too focused on work, told her he was planning to leave but needed to get his finances in order first. Meanwhile, he was borrowing against his own retirement, maxing out credit cards I didn't know existed, and draining our joint account to impress a woman who thought she was getting a prize. The irony was almost funny. Crystal thought she was winning. She thought she was taking my man, my house, my life. She had no idea that what she was actually getting was a $50,000 debt and a liar who'd move on to the next woman the moment things got hard. But she'd figure that out eventually. I was going to make sure of it. I called my best friend Tanya on a Thursday night. Tanya Brooks and I had been tight since our freshman year at Northwestern. She became a corporate attorney. Sharp mind, sharper tongue. The kind of friend who tells you the truth even when it hurts. "I need to tell you something," I said, "and I need you not to say I told you so." "That bad? Damon's been having an affair. 2 years, $47,000 of our money spent on another woman. He's planning to leave me and take half of everything." Tanya was quiet for exactly 3 seconds. Then she said, "What do you need? That's real friendship. No questions about why I stayed, no judgment about how I didn't see it sooner. Just what do you need?" "A lawyer," I said. "A good one. Someone who specializes in divorce." "I know exactly who to call. Her name's Monique Turner. She went through her own divorce 5 years ago. Husband tried to take everything. She walked away with the house, the cars, and his dignity. Now she helps other women do the same." "Set up a meeting." The next day I sat in Monique Turner's office with a folder full of evidence, bank statements, credit card charges, screenshots of text messages, photos from Shelley's surveillance. Monique reviewed everything without speaking. When she finished, she looked at me with something like admiration. "You're a forensic accountant." "Yes." "And your husband decided to cheat on you using joint finances." "Apparently." She shook her head slowly. "Some men really are that stupid." Then she got down to business. "Georgia is an equitable distribution state," she explained. "That means marital assets get divided fairly, which doesn't always mean equally. But here's what most people don't understand. Assets owned before marriage or purchased with inherited money can be classified as separate property." "Your house," Monique said. "The one you bought with your grandmother's inheritance. The deed is in your name only. Only my name. I've made every single mortgage payment from my personal account." "And your husband's financial contribution to the household over 10 years. Minimal, sporadic paychecks from various failed businesses I funded. His tax returns show less than $15,000 in income most years. Mine show 10 times that." Monique leaned back in her chair. "Veronica, I'm going to be straight with you. Your husband has nothing. Everything of value is in your name. The house is separate property. Your retirement accounts are separately titled. Even the cars are registered to you because you're the one with the credit score to qualify for the loans. So if I file for divorce, he walks away with the clothes on his back. Maybe his car if you're feeling generous. But the house, your savings, your retirement, he has no claim to any of it. And given the evidence of financial fraud here," she tapped the folder, "the amount he's withdrawn from joint accounts without your knowledge or consent, you could actually sue him for that money back." I let that sink in. For 10 years I thought we were partners. I thought what was mine was ours. I thought I was building a life with someone. Turns out I was building everything alone, and legally I got to keep everything I built. "There's more," I said. "His mistress, her father is Judge Harold Montgomery." Monique's eyebrows shot up. "Family court, Judge Montgomery." "The same. And does Judge Montgomery know his daughter is involved with a married man?" "I doubt it." Monique smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator who just spotted weakness. "That's an interesting piece of information. The Montgomery family reunion is coming up, isn't it? Big annual event. Very prestigious." "I've heard." "A scandal at that event would be quite damaging to the family's reputation." "I imagine so." We looked at each other. Monique understood exactly what I was considering. "Whatever you're planning," she said carefully, "I can't officially advise you to do anything dramatic, but I can tell you that from a legal standpoint, you're protected. Your assets are secure. Your husband has no leverage, and if certain truths were to come out in a public setting, well, that's not illegal. That's just the consequences of his own actions." I nodded slowly. "How fast can you have divorce papers ready? How fast do you need them?" 3 weeks, the day after the Montgomery reunion." Monique grinned. "I'll have them ready." I left her office with a plan solidifying in my mind. 3 weeks to gather the rest of my evidence. 3 weeks to position myself. 3 weeks to prepare the perfect moment. Crystal Montgomery wanted to announce her engagement at her family reunion. Fine. I was going to attend that reunion, and I was going to return something that belonged to her. One red lace teddy, $890, size small, along with every receipt, every photo, and every piece of evidence that proved my husband was a liar, a cheat, and a thief. She wanted to make a scene. I'd give her a scene she'd never forget. And Damon? He thought he was about to start a new life with a wealthy woman from a prominent family. He was about to lose everything. His reputation, his marriage, his access to my money. And he'd have no one to blame but himself. The countdown had begun. That Saturday morning, I called an emergency meeting of my sister circle. If you don't have a sister circle, let me explain what that is. It's not just friends. It's not just women you brunch with. A sister circle is your war council, your ride or dies, the women who will help you hide a body and never speak of it again. My circle has 4 women, including myself. We've been tight for over 15 years, through marriages, divorces, babies, deaths, job losses, and promotions. Through everything. Tanya Brooks, my best friend since college, corporate attorney, sharp as a blade and twice as dangerous. She doesn't mince words and she doesn't suffer fools. Shelley Warren, my cousin, the private investigator, former police detective who got tired of bureaucracy and started her own firm. If information exists, Shelley can find it. Patricia James, we call her Pat. 45 years old, owns a successful catering company. She's the mother figure of our group. Wise, spiritual, connected to everyone in Atlanta's Black community. Also happens to cater the Montgomery family reunion every single year. When I called them at 6 in the morning on a Saturday, nobody complained. They just asked where and when. Tanya's house, 8 o'clock. Bring coffee. By 8:15, we were all seated in Tanya's living room, coffee cups in hand. Faces serious. They knew this wasn't a social call. I started from the beginning. The credit card statement, the La Perla charge, the hotels and restaurants, the $47,000 spent on a woman who wasn't me, the text messages Shelley had uncovered, the photos of my husband with his arm around Crystal Montgomery like she was his wife and I was just some inconvenience waiting to be discarded. When I finished, the room was silent. Pat spoke first. She reached over and took my hand. Baby girl, how long have you been carrying this alone? A few weeks. And you're just now telling us, I needed evidence first. I needed to know what I was dealing with. Tanya nodded approvingly. Smart. You can't fight a battle you don't understand. So what do we know? I laid it out. Crystal Montgomery, 32 years old, daughter of Judge Harold Montgomery, lifestyle influencer with no real income. Met Damon at his gym 2 years ago, has been sleeping with him ever since, believes he's leaving me to be with her, plans to announce their engagement at her family reunion in 3 weeks. Shelley added her intel. Damon had been telling Crystal he owned our house, told her he was the breadwinner, told her I was a boring workaholic who neglected him, basically painted himself as the victim of a loveless marriage, when in reality he was a kept man who hadn't contributed anything meaningful in years. Wait, Pat interrupted. He told that girl he owns your house. Apparently, the house you bought with Miss Dorothy's inheritance money, the house with only your name on the deed. That's the one. Pat shook her head slowly. Lord have mercy. That man is dumber than a box of rocks. Tanya pulled out a legal pad. She was already in lawyer mode. Okay, let's break this down. Veronica, whose name is on the house deed. Mine, only mine. Mortgage. Paid off 3 years ago with my bonus, my account, my money. Cars. Both registered in my name. I got the loans because his credit was shot. Investment accounts, retirement. All separate, all mine. He has a 401k, but he's borrowed against it twice. Last I checked, it had maybe $8,000. And his income over the past 10 years. Sporadic at best, failed business after failed business. I funded all of them. His tax returns show maybe $15,000 a year, while mine show over $150,000. Tanya stopped writing. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Ronnie, do you understand what you just told me? What do you mean? I mean legally, financially, in every way that matters, you own everything. That man has nothing. The house is your separate property because you bought it with inherited money before it went into any joint account. The cars are yours, the savings are yours, the retirement is yours. She leaned forward. If you divorce him tomorrow, he walks away with the clothes on his back. Maybe his depleted 401k. That's it. He has no claim to your house, no claim to your savings, no claim to anything you've built. Georgia law is very clear about separate property and marital contributions. He contributed nothing. He gets nothing. I sat with that for a moment. 10 years of marriage. 10 years of thinking we were building something together. And the whole time I was the only one building anything. So when he told Crystal he owns the house, he's lying. Or delusional. Probably both. Shelley laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. So this woman thinks she's about to come up, thinks she's getting a successful man with a big house and money in the bank, and what she's actually getting is a broke liar with $50,000 in debt. 50,000. Pat's eyes went wide. At least, I said. Credit cards I didn't know existed, maxed out, plus the money he borrowed from his retirement, plus the $47,000 he spent on Crystal from our joint account. Your joint account, Tanya corrected. The account funded entirely by your salary. Right. The room went quiet again. Then Pat started laughing. Not a chuckle. A full, deep belly laugh. I'm sorry, she said, wiping her eyes. I'm sorry, it's not funny. But it kind of is. This man really thought he was going to leave you for some Instagram girl and take half your stuff. He really thought that was the plan. That was definitely the plan. And he has no idea that he owns nothing. No idea at all, Tanya smiled, that predator smile she gets in court right before she destroys the opposing counsel. So the question is, what do we do with this information? That's when Pat dropped her bombshell. You know, she said casually, the Montgomery family reunion is in 3 weeks. I cater it every year. Been doing it for almost a decade. Everyone turned to look at her. Pat, are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying I have full access to that event. Kitchen, serving floor, everything. I'm saying if someone wanted to get inside that reunion, they'd just need to put on a catering uniform and help me serve. Shelley grinned. Now we're talking. Hold on, Tanya said, ever the lawyer. What exactly are you thinking, Ronnie? Because I need to know the plan before I can tell you if it's legal. I looked at my sister circle, my war council, the women who had seen me through everything. Crystal Montgomery is planning to announce her engagement to my husband at her family reunion, in front of her daddy, the judge, in front of her socialite mama, in front of 100 people from Atlanta's most prominent black family. I paused. I think I should be there, to return something that belongs to her. Return what? Shelley asked, though I could tell she already knew. 1 red lace teddy, size small, $890, along with every receipt, every photo, and every text message proving that the man she thinks she's marrying is still very much married to me. The room erupted. Pat clapped her hands together. Now that's what I'm talking about. Shelley was already on her phone. I'll get you everything printed and organized. Photos, bank statements, the whole package. Tanya held up a hand. Wait. Just wait. We need to think about this carefully. This isn't just confrontation. This is public exposure, in front of powerful people. There could be consequences. What consequences? I asked. He cheated on me, with my money, for 2 years. He's planning to announce an engagement while he's still my husband. What am I supposed to do, sit at home and wait for divorce papers? No, but we need to make sure you're protected, legally, financially, every way. Then protect me. That's what you do. But I'm doing this, Tanya. I'm not letting him rewrite the narrative. I'm not letting him tell everyone I was the problem while he plays victim. I'm not letting Crystal Montgomery stand up in front of her family and claim my husband like she won some prize. Tanya studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Okay, if we're doing this, we're doing it right. Here's what needs to happen. She started writing on her legal pad. First, we secure your finances. Today, separate everything. Move your direct deposit to a new account he doesn't have access to. Freeze the joint credit cards. Document everything in the joint account before we close it. Done. Second, we document everything about the affair. Every receipt, every photo, every text message, printed and organized, multiple copies. If this goes to court, we want evidence that's airtight." Shelley raised her hand. "On it." "Third, we prepare divorce papers. I'll have them ready to file the day after the reunion. The moment you expose him publicly, you need to move fast. He can't have time to hide assets or create narratives." "How fast can you have them done?" "Give me a week." "Fourth," Tanya continued, "we plan the actual confrontation, not just what you're going to say, but how you're going to get in when you're going to make your move, what evidence you're going to present. This can't be sloppy. This can't be emotional. This has to be surgical." Pat spoke up. "I can get her in. Catering uniform. She helps me serve. No one will notice one more black woman carrying champagne trays." "What about timing?" Shelley asked. "Crystal usually makes her announcement after dinner before dessert," Pat said. "That's when she'll have everyone's attention. That's when she'll bring up Damon. Then that's when Veronica steps forward." I looked around at my sister circle. These women who dropped everything on a Saturday morning to help me plan the most dramatic moment of my life. "Thank you," I said quietly. "All of you, thank you." Pat squeezed my hand. "Baby, that's what we're here for. Now let's get to work. We've got 3 weeks to plan and a whole lot to do." The War Council was in session, and Damon had no idea what was coming. Monday morning, I went to the bank. Not our bank, a different bank. One where Damon didn't know anyone and couldn't charm his way into information. I opened a new checking account in my name only. New savings account, too. Changed my direct deposit so my paycheck would go there instead of the joint account. Set up new online banking with a password Damon would never guess. Then I called our joint bank and froze all the credit cards attached to that account, every single one. If Damon tried to use them, they'd decline. Let him figure out why. I didn't close the joint account entirely, not yet. I wanted to see what he'd do when he realized the gravy train had stopped. Wanted to see how he'd scramble. Wanted documentation of his attempts to access money that wasn't his. While I was securing my finances, Shelley was doing a deep dive into Damon's. What she found was worse than I imagined. She called me Tuesday evening with the full report. "Girl, sit down for this one." I sat. "Your husband has 3 credit cards you don't know about, all maxed out. Total debt across all 3, $23,000. $23,000, on top of everything else. 2 of them are store cards, high interest rates. He's been making minimum payments for months. The third is a Visa with a $12,000 limit, maxed. He's been using it for cash advances." Cash advances for what? That's the thing. The cash advances match up with his spending on Crystal. Hotels, restaurants, gifts. When the joint account ran low, he'd get cash advances to keep up appearances. So he wasn't just spending my money. He was going into debt to maintain the illusion of being wealthy for his mistress. What about his 401k? Borrowed against it twice. First time was $15,000 2 years ago. Second time was $8,000 about 6 months back. Current balance is around $4,000. I did the math in my head. $23,000 in credit card debt. $23,000 borrowed from retirement. The $47,000 he spent from our joint account on Crystal. That's almost $100,000 of financial destruction in 2 years. "There's more," Shelley said. "His job." "What about it?" "He doesn't have one, not really. He was demoted 18 months ago. They cut his title, cut his salary, basically put him in a corner office to ride out his contract. He makes about $40,000 a year now. Used to make $70,000. That explained a lot. The extra time at the gym, the vague answers about work, the increasing distance. He was failing, and instead of telling me, he doubled down on the lie. Pretended everything was fine while the walls closed in. "So what you're telling me," I said slowly, "is that the man who's been acting like the big shot, the breadwinner, the one who's too good for this boring marriage, is actually broke, demoted, and drowning in debt." "That's exactly what I'm telling you." "And Crystal thinks she's getting a successful businessman. Crystal thinks she's getting a whole lot of things she's not getting." I laughed. I couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all. This man had spent 2 years tearing down his own life, destroying his finances, burning through my money, building a fantasy for a woman who wanted him for status he didn't have and money he didn't own. And the whole time he thought he was winning. He thought he was setting up his escape, his fresh start, his new life with a younger woman from a wealthy family. What he was actually doing was digging his own grave. And I was about to hand him the shovel. "One more thing," Shelley said. "I traced all the gifts he bought Crystal. The jewelry, the bags, the lingerie. You want to know where they came from? Tell me. The Tiffany bracelet purchased on your joint credit card. The Gucci bag, same card. The La Perla lingerie joint account ATM withdrawal the day before. So everything he gave her came from you. Every single gift, every dinner, every hotel room. He used your money to fund an affair, buy presents for his mistress, and maintain an illusion of wealth he never had." I thought about Crystal posting those gifts on Instagram, showing off her jewelry, bragging about her lavish lifestyle. She had no idea those presents came from the woman she was helping betray. She had no idea she was flaunting stolen goods. "Shelley, I need you to put together a complete package. Every receipt, every bank statement, every photo, everything organized chronologically. I want it so clear that a child could understand it. How many copies? Make 5, 1 for me, 1 for the lawyer, 1 for backup, and 2 for the reunion. 2 for the reunion, 1 for Crystal, 1 for her parents." Shelley whistled low. "You're not playing around." "No, I'm not. This man tried to steal my life. Tried to rewrite our story so he's the victim and I'm the villain. Tried to use money I earned to fund a fantasy with another woman. I'm done being quiet. I'm done being the bigger person. It's time everyone sees the truth. I'll have everything ready by Friday. Perfect." After I hung up with Shelley, I sat in my home office and looked around. This house that I bought, this furniture that I paid for, this life that I built piece by piece while my husband played pretend. For years I thought I was being a good wife, supporting him through failures, believing in his dreams, carrying the financial weight so he could find himself. What I was actually doing was enabling a man who never intended to grow up, who never intended to be a real partner, who saw me as a stepping stone, a safety net, a meal ticket he could discard when something shinier came along. Not anymore. The next day, I made another call. This one to my mama's oldest friend who happened to work in the county records office. "I need a copy of my property deed," I told her. "Official certified copy. Fastest you can get it. Baby, that man finally showing his behind." Word travels fast in the black community, especially among church women. Something like that. "I'll have it on your desk by Thursday. And Veronica, whatever you're planning, give him hell." "Yes, ma'am." By the end of that week, I had everything I needed. Bank statements proving I paid every bill for 10 years. Tax returns showing his minimal income versus my substantial salary. Proof that the house was bought with my inheritance and maintained with my money alone. Documentation of his secret debts, his borrowed retirement, his demotion, his lies. The financial picture was devastating. For him. If we went to court, he'd walk away with nothing. Less than nothing. He'd walk away with debt and shame and the ruins of a reputation he'd spent years faking. But I wasn't just planning for court. I was planning for something much more immediate, something much more public, something that would ensure Crystal Montgomery, her family, and everyone in their social circle knew exactly who Damon Pierce really was. Friday afternoon, Shelley showed up at my office with a leather briefcase. She closed my door, sat down across from my desk, and opened the case like she was presenting evidence in court. Because that's essentially what she was doing. 2 years of documentation, she said, pulling out folder after folder, organized by month, every receipt, every bank transaction, every photo I took during surveillance, every text message I was able to recover. She spread the folders across my desk. Each one was labeled with dates and contents. January through December of last year, January through present of this year, supplemental evidence, communication records, financial analysis. "Walk me through it." Shelley pointed to the first folder. "This is when it started. 2 years ago, March. That's when the unusual charges begin. Small at first. A dinner here, a gift there. He was testing the waters, seeing if you'd notice. I didn't. No one does at first. That's how they get away with it." She moved to the next folder. By summer, he's more confident. The charges increase, hotels start appearing, weekend trips you thought were business-related. I remembered those trips. Client meetings, he said, networking opportunities. I'd pack his suitcase and kiss him goodbye and go back to work. Never questioned it. Fall of that year, he meets Crystal. I traced it back through gym records and social media check-ins. They were both at that downtown gym on the same days, same times. That's where the relationship started. And the gifts start here. She tapped a folder labeled December. First major gift, a designer handbag, $800. He charged it to your joint card 2 days before Christmas. But you never received a handbag, did you? No. Because it was for her. He gave it to her on Christmas Eve. She posted about it on Instagram the next day. Called it a gift from her, quote, new special someone, unquote. I felt sick. While I was cooking Christmas dinner and wrapping presents for our son, my husband was giving another woman gifts with my money. Spring of last year, things escalate. Shelley moved to more folders. The Tiffany bracelet, $2,400. He put it on the joint credit card and paid it off with cash from the joint account. She wore it to her cousin's wedding. Posted photos. She pulled out a printed Instagram screenshot. There was Crystal in a fancy dress, arm raised to show off a delicate silver bracelet. The caption said something about blessed and loved, blessed with stolen money, loved by a married man. Summer. The hotel bills increase, sometimes 2-3 times a month, always during your work hours or on days you had late meetings. He knew my schedule. He used your schedule. Every time you had a big presentation or a client deadline, he was with her. And I was too busy to notice. You were doing your job. He was counting on that. Shelley pulled out a thicker folder. This is the financial analysis. I broke down every dollar he spent on Crystal over 2 years, $47,312. That includes dinners, hotels, gifts, trips, and the apartment he helped her with. The apartment? Oh, you didn't know that part. Shelley raised an eyebrow. He's been paying part of her rent, $1,000 a month for the past 8 months. Told her it was until he could leave you and they could get their own place together. $8,000 more dollars. Gone. To pay rent for the woman sleeping with my husband. Where'd that money come from? Cash withdrawals. He'd take out $1,500 at a time, pay her rent in cash, keep the rest for spending money. All from the joint account. I closed my eyes and breathed slowly. $47,000, plus $8,000 in rent, plus $23,000 in credit card debt, plus the loans from his 401k. This man had destroyed nearly $100,000. Some of it mine, some of it borrowed, all of it wasted on a fantasy. The text messages are in this folder. Shelley tapped another one. I printed the most damaging ones, the ones where he talks about you. I don't know if I want to read those. You need to, for the reunion. You need to be prepared for what you're exposing. She was right. I opened the folder and started reading. The things he said about me, the lies he told, the way he diminished everything I'd done for us. He called me cold, unaffectionate, more interested in my career than my family. Said I'd let myself go. Said I wasn't the woman he married. He told Crystal he stayed because of our son, told her he was planning his exit strategy, told her once he got his finances in order, they'd be together openly, she'd be his wife, she'd have everything I had. The woman believed every word. There's one more thing. Shelley reached into the briefcase and pulled out a small shopping bag. You asked me to get this. I took the bag and looked inside. A red lace teddy, size small. La Perla, $890. Identical to the one Damon bought Crystal with my money. Why do you need 2? Shelley asked. Because I'm returning the original, the one he bought with my credit card. The gift receipt is in those folders somewhere, right? Shelley nodded. Full documentation of purchase, date, time, amount, card used. Perfect. I held up the teddy, looking at it in the light. Delicate lace, expensive construction. The kind of thing a woman buys when she wants to feel desired. This is going in a gift box, along with the receipt, along with photos, along with enough evidence to prove exactly what my husband has been doing. And you're giving it to her at the reunion. I'm returning it. There's a difference. She accepted gifts purchased with stolen money. I'm simply making sure she understands where they came from. Shelley smiled slowly. Veronica, I've known you since we were kids. I've never seen you like this. Like what? Cold, calculated, scary as hell. I set the teddy down on my desk and looked at my cousin. For 10 years, I was the perfect wife. Patient, understanding, forgiving. I worked myself to exhaustion so he could chase dreams. I smiled through disappointments. I made excuses for failures. I gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left. My voice was steady, but my hands were shaking. And while I was giving everything, he was taking everything. My money, my trust, my time. He used me like an ATM and complained about me to his mistress. He planned to throw me away and steal what I built. I picked up one of the folders. Evidence of 2 years of betrayal, 2 years of lies, 2 years of a husband who saw me as an obstacle to his happiness. I'm done being patient. I'm done being understanding. I'm done being the bigger person. The bigger person gets walked all over. The bigger person gets cheated on for 2 years and doesn't notice. The bigger person loses everything. I looked Shelley directly in the eyes. I'm not trying to be the bigger person anymore. I'm trying to be the person he should have been afraid of all along. Shelley nodded slowly. Then let's finish planning this thing. Walk me through exactly what you want to happen at that reunion. I did, step by step, from the moment I walked in wearing a catering uniform to the moment Crystal opened that gift box in front of her entire family. By the time we were done, Shelley was grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. This is going to be legendary. No, I said, packing all the evidence back into folders. This is going to be justice. 1 week before the reunion, Pat called a planning meeting at her catering company. The warehouse was filled with stainless steel equipment stacks of linens and rows of serving supplies. This was where Pat built her empire. 20 years of feeding Atlanta's elite, weddings, galas, corporate events, and yes, the Montgomery family reunion. Okay, Pat said, spreading out the country club floor plan on a table. Here's what we're working with. Main ballroom seats 120, cocktail hour on the terrace, dinner service at 7, speeches and announcements after dinner, usually around 8:30. She pointed to various locations on the map. Kitchen access is here, service entrance here. My staff will be moving between these areas all night. You'll blend right in. What about security? Light. It's a family event, not a political fundraiser. They check invitations at the front entrance, but catering staff comes through the service entrance. No one questions us. We've been doing this for years. Tanya studied the floor plan. Where will Crystal be making her announcement? Here. Pat tapped a spot near the front of the ballroom. There's a small stage area with a microphone. They use it for toasts and speeches. That's where she'll bring Damon up. And the family. Judge Montgomery sits here at the head table, Patricia next to him, Grandmother Eleanor at the end with the best view. The rest of the family spreads out from there based on status. Crystal's table will be nearby since she's the one making the announcement. I studied the layout, visualizing how the evening would unfold. Crystal in her white dress, probably. Damon in a suit playing the role of successful businessman. Both of them smiling, thinking this was the beginning of their new life together. They had no idea. What's the timing? Shelley asked. Cocktail hour is 6 to 7. Dinner service 7 to 8:15. Then speeches and announcements. Crystal usually goes third or fourth. They save her for when people are comfortable and happy. Dessert wine flowing, guards down. So I need to be in position by 8:15. Earlier, Pat said. You'll help serve dinner. Stay invisible. Then when speeches start, you position yourself near the gift table. That's where you'll have your moment. Gift table. Tradition. People bring gifts for the family, token things, donations to their charity. Crystal will probably receive some engagement gifts if people assume that's what she's announcing. Then that's where I'll put my gift. Tanya raised a concern. What about Damon? If he sees you before Crystal makes her move, he won't recognize me. I'd thought about this already. Different hair, catering uniform, head down. He's never paid attention to service workers. To him, we're invisible. And you're sure about this? Tanya looked at me seriously. Once you do this, there's no going back. No claiming it was a misunderstanding. No walking it back. I'm sure. The Montgomerys are powerful people. Judge Montgomery has connections throughout the legal system. Judge Montgomery's daughter has been sleeping with a married man for 2 years. If he wants to come after me for exposing that, let him try. I'm not the one who broke laws here. I'm not the one who committed fraud. I'm not the one who accepted gifts purchased with stolen money. Tanya nodded slowly, just making sure you understand the stakes. I understand perfectly. The stake is my life, my future, my son's understanding of what's acceptable in a marriage. If I let this go quietly, if I just divorce him and move on, he gets to control the narrative. He gets to tell everyone I was the problem, that I drove him away, that poor Damon was trapped in a loveless marriage. I picked up one of the evidence folders. This is the truth. And the truth deserves to be told. Publicly, loudly, in front of everyone who needs to hear it. 3 days before the reunion, I had a conversation with Jasper, my son, 12 years old, smart as a whip, and far more observant than either of his parents gave him credit for. I found him in his room doing homework when I got home from work, or pretending to do homework. His eyes had that distant look kids get when they're thinking about something else entirely. "Hey, baby, can we talk for a minute?" He nodded and set down his pencil. I sat on the edge of his bed. "Jasper, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." "Okay. Have you noticed anything different about your father lately? Anything that seems strange or not right?" Jasper was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked at me with eyes that seemed far too old for a 12-year-old. "You mean the other woman?" My heart stopped. "You know, Mom, I'm not stupid. I heard him on the phone a few months ago. He didn't know I was in the hallway. He was talking to someone and calling her baby. His voice was different, the way it sounded when he used to talk to you, before." I reached out and took his hand. "I'm so sorry you heard that. Is that why you've been sad? Why you and Dad don't really talk anymore?" "Yes, that's why." "Are you getting divorced?" The question hung in the air. I had been planning all this strategy, all this evidence, all this revenge. But sitting here with my son, I realized I'd been so focused on destroying Damon that I hadn't fully prepared for this conversation. "Yes, baby. We're getting divorced. Your father made choices that hurt our family, choices he can't take back, and I'm not willing to pretend everything is okay anymore." Jasper nodded slowly, like he'd already figured this out and was just waiting for confirmation. "Is it the lady named Crystal? How do you know her name?" Dad said it on the phone. I looked her up on Instagram. She's pretty, I guess. If you like that fake kind of pretty. Despite everything, I laughed, my son calling his father's mistress fake pretty. He was definitely my child. "I'm not going to say mean things about her to you, or about your father. What happens between adults is complicated, but I want you to understand something." I turned to face him fully. "What your father did was wrong, not because he fell out of love with me. People fall out of love sometimes, but because he lied, because he stole money from our family to spend on another woman, because he pretended everything was fine while planning to leave us. Lying is never okay, Jasper. Stealing is never okay, no matter how you try to justify it. I know. And I want you to know something else. No matter what happens with your father and me, you are my priority. You will always have a home. You will always have a mother who loves you. None of this is your fault. None of this changes how much I love you." Jasper leaned into me and I wrapped my arms around him. My baby. Not so much a baby anymore, growing into a young man who would need to learn what integrity looked like, what it meant to treat people with respect. "Mom." "Yes." "Is Dad going to be in trouble?" "Yes, I think so." Good. The word was so simple, so decisive, and in that moment I realized my son had already chosen a side. Not because I asked him to, not because I poisoned him against his father, but because children see things, they understand more than we give them credit for. And Jasper had watched his father disappoint us for years. "One more thing," I said. "This weekend, I'm going to do something Something that's going to make things public. After that, people might talk. Kids at school might say things. I need you to be prepared for that." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to tell the truth, in front of a lot of people. The woman your father has been seeing her family doesn't know he's married. I'm going to make sure they find out." Jasper thought about this for a moment. "Will you be okay?" "I'll be fine. I have your Aunt Tanya, Cousin Shelley, Miss Pat, Mama Ruth. I have a whole army of women looking out for me. And me. You have me too." I hugged him tighter. "Yes, I do. And that's the most important thing of all." That night after Jasper went to bed, I sat in my home office and prepared the final pieces. The gift box wrapped beautifully in silver paper with a white bow. Inside the red lace teddy. Underneath that, a card. Underneath the card, photographs. Underneath the photographs, receipts. Everything layered like evidence in a case. Because that's what it was. A case I'd built against my own husband. A case I was about to present to a jury of his mistress's family. In 2 days, this would all be over. One way or another. I was ready. The day of the Montgomery family reunion started like any other Saturday. I woke up at 6, made coffee, sat in my kitchen watching the sun rise through the windows of the house I bought in the neighborhood I chose, living the life I built. In 12 hours, everything would change. Damon was already up and moving around. Unusual for him on a weekend. Usually he slept until 10, shuffled around in sweats, complained about being tired from his hard week of pretending to work. But today, he was showered by 7, dressed in his best suit by 8, humming to himself while he adjusted his tie in the hallway mirror. He didn't know I was watching from the kitchen doorway. "You're dressed up," I said casually. He startled slightly, then recovered with that charming smile he uses when he's about to lie. "Oh, hey, babe. Yeah, I've got a networking thing today. Big event, potential clients. Could be really good for business." Networking thing. That's what he was calling it. The family reunion of the woman he'd been sleeping with for 2 years. The event where he planned to announce their engagement. Where he thought he was starting his new life. "Sounds important." "It is. Might be late getting home. Don't wait up." Don't wait up. Because he probably wasn't planning on coming home at all. He was probably planning to celebrate with Crystal tonight. Maybe even stay at her place since he was about to be a newly engaged man. Or so he thought. "Good luck," I said, and my voice didn't waver at all. He kissed me on the cheek. That same dry, obligatory peck he'd been giving me for months. Then he grabbed his keys and walked out the door, completely unaware that he'd never walk back in as my husband. I watched his car pull out of the driveway, watched him disappear down the street, watched the man I'd spent 10 years with drive toward his own destruction. Then I went upstairs to get ready. Tanya arrived at noon. She brought the final divorce papers in a manila envelope. "Signed and ready to file Monday morning," she said, setting them on my dresser. "The moment this is over, we move. He won't have time to hide anything or come up with excuses." "Thank you. You know you don't have to do this right. We could just file the papers. Let the courts handle everything. You've got more than enough evidence for a favorable ruling." "I know. But you're doing it anyway." "I'm doing it anyway." Tanya studied me for a moment. We'd known each other for almost 20 years. She could read me better than almost anyone. "This isn't just about revenge, is it?" "No, it's about the truth. For 2 years he's been telling Crystal that I'm the problem, that I'm cold, that I neglect him, that I drove him away. For 2 years she's believed she's the hero of this story, the woman who's going to save him from his terrible marriage." I picked up the silver-wrapped gift box from my desk. She needs to know who she really is. The other woman, the mistress, the person who accepted stolen gifts and didn't ask questions because she didn't want to know the answers. She's not a hero, she's complicit. And the family. The Montgomerys built their reputation on being above reproach, respectable, moral. Judge Montgomery has sent people to prison for fraud and theft. His daughter has been benefiting from fraud and theft for 2 years. If they want to maintain their reputation, they need to know what's been happening under their noses. Shelley arrived at 1 o'clock with a bag containing the catering uniform Pat had provided. Simple black pants, white button-down shirt, black apron. The uniform of invisibility. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Calm. Strangely calm. That's the adrenaline. It's going to hit you later, probably right around the time you walk into that ballroom. I'll be ready. Pat picked me up at 3. Her catering van was loaded with equipment and supplies. 2 of her regular staff were already inside prepping for the evening. You remember everything we discussed? Pat asked as I climbed into the passenger seat. Arrive at 4 for setup, help with cocktail hour service, dinner service from 7 to 8. When speeches start, I position near the gift table. When Crystal steps up to make her announcement, I make mine. And if something goes wrong, I improvise, but I don't leave until the truth is told. Pat nodded and started the van. Then let's go crash a party. The Magnolia Country Club was everything you'd expect from old Atlanta money. Spanish moss dripping from ancient oaks, manicured gardens, a main building that looked like something from a period film, valets in crisp uniforms, members in pearls and pressed suits. We entered through the service entrance. Nobody questioned us. Nobody even looked at us twice. Pat and her team had been catering events here for years. We were part of the furniture, invisible. The ballroom was already being transformed. White tablecloths, crystal centerpieces, flowers everywhere. A small stage at the front with a microphone stand. The Montgomery family crest displayed prominently behind it. That's where she'll be, Pat said quietly, nodding toward the stage. And there's the gift table. A long table near the entrance already filling with wrapped boxes and envelopes. Donations to the family's charitable foundation mostly. A few personal gifts for honored guests. Soon my gift would join them. By 5 o'clock, the first guests started arriving. I stayed in the kitchen, helping plate appetizers, trying to keep my hands busy so they wouldn't shake. Through the service window, I watched the Montgomery family make their entrance. Judge Harold Montgomery, distinguished in a charcoal suit, shaking hands like the politician he'd never officially become. Patricia Montgomery, in cream-colored silk, air-kissing her way through the crowd. And there was Crystal. She wore white. Of course she did. An ivory dress that stopped just above the knee, showing off legs that probably spent hours on the Stairmaster. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless, diamond earrings catching the light, the Tiffany earrings, the ones Damon bought with my credit card. She looked radiant, happy, like a woman about to get everything she ever wanted. She had no idea what was coming. Damon arrived separately. Smart, maintaining the illusion that they weren't together yet. He made his way through the crowd, shaking hands, making small talk, playing the role of successful businessman networking at an exclusive event. I watched him kiss Crystal's cheek when he reached her, a quick gesture, nothing too obvious. But I saw the way she looked at him, like he was her prize, her future, her happily ever after. My stomach turned, but I didn't look away. Cocktail hour passed in a blur of champagne trays and crab puffs. I served drinks to people who didn't see me, made trips between the kitchen and the ballroom, kept my head down and my ears open. I heard snippets of conversation. Crystal looks beautiful tonight. I hear she has an announcement. Something about a new man in her life, serious apparently. About time she settled down. Dinner service started at 7. I helped plate the salads, poured water at tables, cleared dishes. The professional detachment of service work kept me focused, one task at a time, one table at a time. And through it all, I kept my eyes on Crystal, on Damon, on the stage where their fantasy was about to come crashing down. At 8:15, the caterers started clearing the main course. Dessert would come after the speeches. That was the tradition. I slipped away from the kitchen and retrieved my gift box from the van where Pat had hidden it. The silver wrapping caught the light as I carried it through the service corridor and into the ballroom. No one stopped me. No one questioned a catering worker carrying a gift. I placed the box on the gift table with the others, right in the front, right where Crystal would see it when she came back to her seat. Then I positioned myself near the side wall, close enough to see everything, close enough to step forward when the moment came. The program director took the microphone and welcomed everyone to the 35th Annual Montgomery Family Reunion. Applause. Speeches began. Judge Montgomery spoke about family legacy. Patricia spoke about the foundation's charitable work. An uncle told a story about the family's history in Atlanta, and then Crystal was introduced. And now we have a special announcement from the youngest member of our immediate family. Crystal, sweetheart, come on up. Crystal made her way to the stage, beaming. Damon straightened his tie at his table, preparing to join her. This was it. The moment I'd been planning for 3 weeks. The moment of truth. Crystal took the microphone and looked out at the sea of faces. Her family, her friends, her world. Thank you all for being here, she began. Family means everything to us Montgomerys. And tonight, I want to share something special with all of you. Something I've been waiting to announce for a long time. She paused dramatically. I'd like to introduce you to someone who's changed my life. The man I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. She extended her hand toward Damon's table. Everyone, please welcome Damon Pierce. Damon stood buttoning his jacket, walking toward the stage with that confident stride I knew so well. And that's when I stepped forward. Actually, I said, my voice cutting through the applause, I'd like to introduce myself first. Every head in the room turned toward me. Crystal froze at the microphone. Damon stopped mid-stride, his face going pale. And I walked toward the stage with the silver-wrapped gift box in my hands. My name is Veronica Pierce, and that man walking toward you, he's my husband. We've been married for 10 years, and I have something to return to you. The ballroom went completely silent. The real show was about to begin. The silence in that ballroom was so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. 120 people staring at me. Crystal frozen at the microphone, her face a mask of confusion. Damon standing between his table and the stage, looking like he'd seen a ghost. Because in a way he had. The ghost of the wife he thought he'd already buried. I'm sorry to interrupt your lovely event, I said, walking toward the stage with the gift box in my hands. My voice was steady, calm, the voice I used in courtrooms when presenting evidence that would destroy someone's case. But I couldn't let this announcement happen without some context. Who are you? Crystal's voice came out shaky. Security, someone call security. My name is Veronica Pierce. I've been married to Damon Pierce for 10 years. We have a 12-year-old son together, and I've spent the last 3 weeks documenting every dollar my husband has spent on you. The murmurs started immediately, whispers rippling through the crowd like waves. That's not... Damon, what is she talking about? Crystal turned to him, desperate for an explanation. But Damon couldn't speak. He was staring at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Pure terror. Should I continue? I asked, climbing the 2 steps to the stage. Or would you like to explain, Damon? Tell them how we're still very much married. Tell them about our son who's waiting at home right now. Tell them about the house that's in my name that you promised Crystal you owned. Veronica, let's talk about this outside. Damon found his voice, but it was weak, pleading. This isn't the place. Oh, this is exactly the place. This is where you planned to announce your engagement. This is where you were going to introduce your mistress to society. This is where you thought you were starting your new life. I turned to face the crowd, found Judge Montgomery at the head table, his face unreadable. Found Patricia, her hand pressed against her chest. Found Grandmother Eleanor watching with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Judge Montgomery, I apologize for disrupting your family event, but I thought you should know who your daughter has been involved with for the past 2 years. And more importantly, I thought you should know how she's been funding her relationship. Young lady. Judge Montgomery's voice was deep and commanding. These are serious accusations. Yes, sir, they are, which is why I brought evidence. I held up the silver-wrapped gift box. Crystal, this is for you. Consider it a parting gift from the marriage you tried to destroy. Crystal didn't move. She was shaking now, mascara starting to run as tears formed in her eyes. Take it, I said, holding the box toward her. Open it in front of everyone. Let them see what my husband has been buying you with my money. I didn't know. Crystal's voice broke. Didn't know what? That he was married. He wears a wedding ring. Crystal, did you think it was a fashion statement? Someone in the crowd laughed, a harsh, uncomfortable sound. Open the box, I repeated, or I'll open it for you. Crystal's hands were trembling as she took the box from me. She looked at Damon silently, begging him to fix this, to explain, to make it all go away. But Damon had nothing. He stood there paralyzed, watching his carefully constructed fantasy collapse in real time. Crystal pulled the ribbon, lifted the lid, and her face went white. She pulled out the red lace teddy first. La Perla, size small, $890, the exact piece Damon had bought her with my credit card 6 months ago. "Recognize it?" I asked. "You should. My husband bought it for you on March 15th of this year, charged it to our joint credit card. I have the receipt if you'd like to see it." Crystal dropped the teddy like it was on fire. It fell to the stage floor, a puddle of red lace at her feet. "Keep looking," I said. "There's more." She reached into the box again, pulled out the stack of photographs. Crystal at restaurants with Damon. Crystal walking into her apartment building with Damon. Crystal kissing Damon in his car. Crystal wearing the Tiffany bracelet he'd bought her. Crystal in that very red teddy, a photo she'd clearly sent to my husband because my cousin, the private investigator, found it in his cloud storage. 2 years of photographs, I said as Crystal flipped through them with shaking hands. 2 years of my husband sneaking around with you. 2 years of lies. Crystal dropped the photos. They scattered across the stage images of her betrayal on display for everyone to see. "There's one more thing in that box." She reached in and pulled out the folder, the one containing every receipt, every bank statement, every text message, everything. That's the financial documentation. $47,000 over 2 years, hotels, dinners, jewelry, lingerie, gifts, all purchased with money from my joint account. An account funded entirely by my salary because your boyfriend hasn't held a steady job in years. "That's not true," Crystal said, but her voice had no conviction. "He told me. He said he was successful. He said he owned his house. He said—" "He lied about everything. Would you like to know what else he lied about?" I turned to address the crowd again. Damon told Crystal he was the breadwinner in our marriage. The truth is, I make 3 times his salary. I've been the primary earner for our entire marriage. He told her he owns our house. The truth is, I bought that house with an inheritance from my grandmother. The deed is in my name, only my name. He has no legal claim to it whatsoever. He told her he was a successful marketing executive. The truth is, he was demoted 18 months ago. His company put him in a corner office to ride out his contract because they couldn't legally fire him. I paused, letting each revelation sink in. He told her I was cold, neglectful, that I drove him away with my focus on work. But the reason I worked so hard was because I was paying every single bill, the mortgage, the utilities, the cars, his failed business ventures, his mother's medical bills, everything. I looked at Damon, really looked at him. This man I'd loved for 12 years. This man I'd supported through failure after failure. This man who repaid my loyalty with betrayal. "You're not a successful businessman, Damon. You're not a provider. You're not a catch. You're a fraud. You've been playing a role for years, and I was too busy keeping us afloat to notice you were drowning us both." "Veronica," his voice cracked, "please, not like this." "Not like what?" "Not in public, not in front of witnesses. You were going to announce your engagement to another woman while still married to me, in front of 100 people. You wanted public, here's public." I turned back to the Montgomery family table. "Judge Montgomery, Patricia, I'm truly sorry your daughter got caught up in this, but she wasn't an innocent victim. She knew he was married. She accepted gifts she had to know were suspicious. She planned to announce an engagement to a man who hadn't even filed for divorce." I pointed to the photos scattered on the stage. "Your daughter has been the other woman for 2 years. She's been accepting stolen property. She's been helping a man defraud his wife. I don't know what kind of legal implications that has, but I imagine you do." Judge Montgomery's face had gone from unreadable to thunderous. Not at me, I realized. At his daughter. At the man she'd brought into his family. At the scandal now unfolding in front of everyone he knew. "Crystal!" His voice was ice. "Is this true?" "Daddy, I didn't—" He told me they were separated. He said the divorce was almost final. He said, "Did you see divorce papers?" Silence. Did you ever meet his son? Silence. Did you ever go to his house, meet his wife, verify any of what he told you? Crystal started sobbing, full, ugly crying that smeared her perfect makeup down her face. I loved him, she wailed. I believed him. You believed what you wanted to believe, I said quietly, because the truth would have required you to be a decent person, and decent people don't date married men. Grandmother Eleanor spoke next. I hadn't noticed her moving, but suddenly she was standing at the edge of the stage, gripping her cane, staring up at the scene with eyes that had seen everything in 82 years and were thoroughly unimpressed by what they were seeing now. Young man, her voice cut through Crystal's sobbing. You, the one standing there like a fool. Come here. Damon looked around as if hoping she might be talking to someone else, but there was no escape. He walked toward the stage on legs that seemed barely able to hold him. You've been sleeping with my granddaughter for 2 years. It wasn't a question. Damon didn't answer anyway. You've been lying to her about your marriage, about your finances, about who you are. Still not a question. Still no answer. And you thought you could walk into my family's reunion and announce an engagement like you're some kind of prize. Grandmother Eleanor turned to look at me. Really look at me. Taking in the catering uniform I was still wearing, the evidence scattered across the stage, the calm determination in my eyes. What do you do for a living, young lady? I'm a forensic accountant, ma'am. She let out a single sharp laugh. A forensic accountant. Harold, did you hear that? This fool cheated on a forensic accountant, using joint finances. Judge Montgomery, despite the gravity of the situation, almost smiled. I heard Mother. In 60 years of watching people destroy their own lives, I have never seen anything this stupid. She pointed her cane at Damon. You, sir, are the dumbest man in Georgia, possibly the dumbest man in the entire South. My granddaughter is a fool for believing you, but you're a special kind of fool for thinking you could get away with this. She turned to Crystal, who had sunk into a chair on the stage, still crying. And you, I raised this family for 3 generations, built our name, our reputation, our standing in this community, and you almost burned it all down for a man with nothing, less than nothing, a man who couldn't even cheat competently. Grandmother, please, don't grandmother me. I watched you parade this man around for months, heard you talk about your future together, and the whole time he was married, had a child, was spending another woman's money to impress you. Grandmother Eleanor looked out at the crowd, her family, the legacy she'd spent her entire life building. This reunion is over, she announced. Everyone go home. We'll deal with this family matter privately. The crowd started moving immediately. When Grandmother Eleanor spoke, people listened. Chairs scraped against the floor. Voices murmured as people gathered their things and headed for the exits. But I wasn't done yet. One more thing, I said, raising my voice so the departing guests could hear. Before everyone leaves, I want to be clear about something. The room paused, all eyes on me again. I didn't come here for revenge. I didn't come here to humiliate Crystal or her family. I came here because my husband was about to stand up in front of all of you and announce that he was engaged to another woman. He was going to publicly declare his love for someone else while I sat at home unknowing still technically his wife. I pointed to the evidence still scattered across the stage. I came here so the truth would be told, the truth about who he is, the truth about what he did, the truth about the $47,000 he stole from me to fund this fantasy. I looked at Damon one last time. You don't get to control the narrative anymore. You don't get to tell everyone I was the problem. You don't get to play the victim. The truth is out. Everyone here knows exactly who you are. I stepped down from the stage and walked toward the exit. Pat was waiting by the door, my purse and car keys in her hands. Shelley was beside her phone, out having recorded everything. Veronica, wait! Damon's voice. Desperate now. Broken. I turned. He had followed me off the stage, leaving Crystal still crying in her chair. He stood in the middle of the emptying ballroom, surrounded by scattered photographs of his affair, looking like a man whose entire world had collapsed. Because it had. "Please," he said. "Can we talk, just the two of us? I can explain everything." "Explain what, Damon?" "The 2-year affair. The $47,000 you stole, the lies you told her about our marriage, the lies you told me about where you were every night you were with her. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but we can work through this, for Jasper, for our family." "Our family? You were planning to leave our family. You were about to announce your engagement to another woman. You told Crystal I was boring, that I neglected you, that I drove you away." "I didn't mean any of that. I was confused. She paid attention to me, made me feel special." "I made you feel special for 10 years. I supported every dream you ever had. I funded every business that failed. I believed in you when you gave me nothing to believe in." My voice stayed calm, but my eyes were burning. "You want to know what you gave me in return? A high blood pressure diagnosis from stress. A husband who came home smelling like another woman's perfume. A son who overheard you calling your mistress and had to keep that secret because he didn't want to hurt me. Jasper knows. Jasper has known for months. He looked her up on Instagram, called her fake pretty. He's 12 years old, and he saw through her faster than you thought I would." Damon staggered like I'd hit him. My son thinks—" "Your son knows his father is a liar and a cheat, and he chose his mother, without me saying a single bad word about you. Children see things, Damon. They see more than we give them credit for." I looked at this man I'd built a life with, slept beside for 10 years, created a child with, believed in when no one else did. I felt nothing, not anger, not sadness, not even satisfaction, just emptiness where love used to be. "You'll be served with divorce papers Monday morning," I said. "I'm keeping the house. It's in my name. You have no claim to it. I'm keeping my retirement accounts, my savings, everything that's legally mine, which, as it turns out, is everything of value. You can't. What am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? I don't care. Figure it out. You've got that degree I paid for. Those connections you're always bragging about. Use them. Veronica, please. I have nothing. I know. And that's exactly what you deserve." I turned and walked out of the Montgomery family reunion with my head held high. Behind me, I heard Crystal's mother, Patricia, finally speak. "Crystal Diane Montgomery, we are going home, now, and we are going to have a very long conversation about the choices you've made." The last thing I heard before the doors closed behind me was Damon's voice calling my name. I didn't look back. The drive home was silent. Pat drove. Shelley sat in the back with me, her hand on my shoulder. Nobody spoke because there was nothing to say. We'd done what we came to do. Now came everything else. When we got to Tanya's house, the whole sister circle was waiting. Tanya had champagne on ice, but she took one look at my face and put it away. "You okay?" she asked quietly. "I don't know. I will be. But right now I just feel empty." She nodded like she understood. She probably did. Tanya had been through her own divorce years ago. She knew the strange hollowness that comes after a major confrontation, the way victory can feel like loss when it's the end of something that was supposed to last forever. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we execute. Monday morning I file the divorce papers. Based on everything we have, this should move fast. He has no grounds to contest, no assets to claim, no leverage whatsoever. And Crystal, that's her family's problem. I doubt we'll hear from them. The Montgomerys are too proud to drag this out publicly. They'll want it buried as quickly as possible." She was right about that. Over the next few days, I didn't hear a word from Crystal or her family. No calls, no lawyers, no threats. Complete silence. But I heard plenty from other people. Church members who suddenly wanted to express their support. Neighbors who'd always suspected something was off about Damon. Colleagues who said I was a legend for what I did. The story spread through Atlanta's Black community like wildfire. By Monday, everyone knew. By Wednesday, it was all anyone could talk about. "You're famous," Shelley told me over coffee. "I've had 3 people ask me if I'm really your cousin." "I don't want to be famous. I want to be divorced." "That's happening. Tanya filed this morning. Damon's been served. He has 30 days to respond. He'll try something. Delay tactics. Claims to the house. Something. Let him try. We've got documentation going back 10 years. Every bank statement. Every tax return. Every payment you made on that house. If he wants to fight it in court, he'll lose. Badly. Damon did try. Of course he did. Men like him always do. He hired a lawyer. A cheap one since he couldn't afford anything better. The lawyer sent a letter claiming Damon was entitled to half the marital assets, claiming the house should be sold and proceeds split, claiming he deserved spousal support because he'd sacrificed his career to support the family. Tanya's response was surgical. She sent back 20 years of tax returns showing Damon's minimal income, bank statements proving I'd made every mortgage payment, documentation of the house being purchased with inherited money, records of every failed business I'd funded, a timeline of his affair expenses. And then she attached the video. Shelley had recorded the entire confrontation at the reunion, every word I said, every piece of evidence I presented. Crystal crying on stage, Damon admitting he made a mistake, all of it captured in high definition. Your client admitted to a 2-year affair in front of 100 witnesses, Tanya wrote. He admitted to spending marital funds on his mistress. He was caught on video in a relationship with another woman. If this goes to trial, we will play this video. We will subpoena every Montgomery family member who was present. We will make this the most public, humiliating divorce in Georgia history. Damon's lawyer dropped him 2 days later. Without representation, Damon had no choice but to negotiate. And by negotiate, I mean accept whatever terms I offered. The house remained mine, completely and entirely. The cars remained mine. I'd generously allow him to keep driving his until the loan was paid off, at which point he could figure out his own transportation. My retirement accounts remained mine. His depleted 401k remained his problem. The debt he'd accumulated, the credit cards I didn't know about, the money he'd borrowed against his retirement, all of it stayed with him. Child support was set at $800 a month. He complained it was too high. The judge looked at my income, looked at his, and told him he was getting off easy. Custody of Jasper went primarily to me. Damon got every other weekend, assuming he found a stable living situation, which, given his financial state, might take a while. The divorce was finalized in 3 months. Record time for Georgia. On the day it became official, I sat in my kitchen in my house drinking coffee and looking at the final decree. The document that legally ended 10 years of marriage, 10 years of supporting a man who was using me the entire time. I should have felt something. Relief, sadness, victory, anything. Instead, I felt calm, clear, ready for whatever came next. My phone buzzed. A text from Jasper. Mom, we're officially free. Can we celebrate with pizza tonight? I smiled for the first time in days. Anything you want, baby. Anything you want. The weeks after the divorce were about rebuilding. Not the dramatic kind of rebuilding you see in movies, the quiet kind, the real kind. I went back to work and threw myself into cases. Numbers made sense. Evidence was reliable. People lied, but the paper trail always told the truth. I redecorated the house, painted the bedroom a color Damon always hated, bought new furniture for the living room, replaced everything that reminded me of him until the house finally felt like mine. I started therapy, something I should have done years ago. Once a week, I sat in a calm office and unpacked a decade of ignoring my own needs. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And I leaned on my sister circle, weekly dinners, monthly brunch traditions. The women who had dropped everything to help me plan the most dramatic moment of my life continued to show up for the quiet moments that followed. "How are you really doing?" Rochelle asked one evening at her salon. She was touching up my locks, something I'd finally had time to maintain properly. "Some days are good, some days I'm angry, some days I'm sad. Most days I'm just moving forward." "That's all you can do." I keep thinking about the time I wasted. 10 years with a man who never really valued me. You didn't waste those years. You raised a beautiful son. You built a career. You bought a house. You became the woman you are. He was just there while you did it. I thought about that. She was right. The marriage may have been a mistake, but the life I built during it was real. Every accomplishment was mine. Every success was mine. I hadn't been building for him. I'd been building for me. He just happened to benefit. And now he was gone. And the building continued. Let me tell you what happened to everyone after the dust settled. Damon's life fell apart completely. Without my income supporting him, he couldn't afford anything. The apartment he'd been planning to share with Crystal was suddenly out of reach. The lifestyle he'd been faking was impossible to maintain. He moved in with his mother for 2 months. That ended when she got tired of him eating her food and contributing nothing. Same pattern, different woman. After that, he bounced between friends' couches until those friends stopped answering his calls. Turns out, people aren't eager to help a man who became locally famous for cheating on his wife with a judge's daughter. He eventually found a studio apartment on the south side of the city. 400 square feet, no dishwasher, street noise at all hours. A far cry from the house he thought he was going to take from me. His job didn't survive the scandal either. The company had been looking for a reason to let him go, and becoming the talk of Atlanta's professional circles gave them the excuse they needed. Something about behavior unbecoming of an employee. They paid out his contract and showed him the door. Last I heard, he was working at a car dealership, not selling cars, working in the service department, scheduling oil changes and tire rotations, from marketing executive to service desk, from luxury SUV to city bus, from wife who paid all his bills to studio apartment with a hot plate. Karma is real. I've seen it with my own eyes. And Crystal, oh Crystal. Her family handled the scandal the way old money families always do. They closed ranks, stopped talking to outsiders, made sure the story died as quickly as possible. But inside those ranks, Crystal was finished. Grandmother Eleanor wrote her out of the will the week after the reunion. "I won't leave my legacy to someone with no judgment," she reportedly told the family lawyer. That was several $100,000 Crystal had been counting on. Gone. Her father barely spoke to her for months. Judge Montgomery had built his reputation on integrity and moral authority. Having a daughter who was publicly exposed as a homewrecker did not help his image. Their relationship never fully recovered. Her mother, Patricia, was embarrassed on a level that only socialites can understand. All those charity boards, all those luncheons, all those women she'd looked down on for their family dramas. Now she was the one with a daughter who'd been publicly humiliated at her own family reunion. Crystal's influencer career, such as it was, died instantly. Sponsors don't want to be associated with scandal. Her 15,000 followers became 14,000, then 12,000. Then she made her account private and stopped posting altogether. She had to get an actual job. First time in her life. Retail, from what I heard. Working at a department store helping customers find things standing on her feet for 8 hours a day. No more brunches. No more designer bags. No more lifestyle to influence. And Damon. She dumped him the same night as the reunion. Didn't even let him explain. He'd called her 37 times that weekend. She never answered. Can't say I blame her. She thought she was getting a successful businessman with a house and money and status. Instead, she got exposed as a mistress and lost her inheritance in the same evening. All because she believed a man who told her what she wanted to hear instead of checking if any of it was true. They deserved each other honestly. 2 liars who believed each other's lies. Jasper handled everything better than I expected. He went to therapy too. Different therapist, same healing process. We talked openly about what happened. About why his father did what he did. About what healthy relationships look like. "I'm never going to be like him," Jasper told me one evening. We were sitting on the back porch eating ice cream, watching fireflies. "Like who?" "Dad, I'm never going to lie like that. Never going to cheat. Never going to make promises I don't keep." My heart swelled so big, I thought it might burst. "You're already better than him, baby. You've been better than him for a long time." "How do you know?" "Because you told the truth when it was hard. Because you chose your family over keeping a secret that wasn't yours to keep. Because you have integrity. Real integrity. Not the fake kind your father pretended to have." Jasper was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I'm glad you found out, Mom. I'm glad it's over. You seem happier now." "I am happier. It took a while, but I am." "Good. You deserve to be happy. You're the strongest person I know." That night, after Jasper went to bed, I sat on the porch alone and cried. Not sad tears, not angry tears, grateful tears. For a son who saw me clearly, for friends who held me up, for the strength I didn't know I had until I needed it. The divorce had cost me a marriage, but it had given me something more valuable. It had given me myself back. It's been a year since I walked into the Montgomery family reunion with a gift-wrapped box of evidence. A year since I stood in front of 100 strangers and told the truth about my husband. A year since I took back control of my own story. Let me tell you what my life looks like now. My career has never been better. I made senior partner 6 months ago. Biggest promotion of my professional life. Turns out when you're not spending all your energy managing a failing husband, you have plenty left over for excellence. My health has improved dramatically. Blood pressure is normal now. No more stress eating at midnight. No more insomnia wondering where my husband really was. I lost 20 pounds without trying, just from the weight of deception being lifted off my shoulders. My house is finally mine in every way that matters. I painted every room, changed every piece of furniture that reminded me of the marriage, planted a garden in the backyard. Something I'd always wanted to do, but never had time for when I was busy being everything to everyone. Jasper is thriving, honor roll every semester, captain of his basketball team. He sees his father every other weekend as required by the custody agreement, but he chooses to spend most of his time with me. Not because I turned him against Damon, because children know who shows up for them consistently. And my sister circle, we're tighter than ever. Every month, first Sunday, we gather for brunch. Pat's cooking, Tanya's wine selection, Shelley's investigative updates on whatever scandal is happening in Atlanta. We've added a new member, a woman named Joyce, who went through something similar and needed support. That's how healing works. You receive help, then you pass it forward. I'm not dating yet, not seriously. A few coffee dates here and there. Getting to know myself again before I try to know anyone else. Learning what I like, what I want, what I will and won't accept. There's a man at church. David. Kind eyes, respectful. He asked for my number 3 times before I gave it to him. Not because I was playing games, because I wanted to be sure I was ready. We've been talking, just talking, getting to know each other slowly. He knows my story. Everyone does. He said it didn't scare him off, said he respected a woman who stands up for herself. We'll see. No rush. I've got the rest of my life. People ask me all the time whether I regret what I did. Confronting Damon publicly, exposing Crystal at her family reunion, making a scene that's still being discussed a year later. My answer is always the same. No. Not for 1 second. Here's what I've learned about being the bigger person. Sometimes being the bigger person just means being the easier target. It means staying quiet so other people are comfortable. It means accepting disrespect because confrontation is messy. I was the bigger person for 10 years. I made excuses for Damon's failures. I ignored warning signs because I didn't want to cause problems. I put his needs before mine because that's what good wives do. Being the bigger person cost me $47,000. Cost me years of emotional energy. Almost cost me my health. So no, I don't regret being small that night. Being petty, being dramatic, being the woman who showed up with receipts. Sometimes you have to burn the house down to save yourself. If you're watching this and you see yourself in my story, I want you to hear something. You are not crazy. Whatever you're sensing, whatever instinct is telling you something is wrong, trust it. Women are conditioned to doubt ourselves, to make excuses for the men in our lives, to give second chances until we've given away everything we have. Stop giving away pieces of yourself to people who aren't giving anything back. Here's what I wish someone had told me 10 years ago. First lesson, never put a man's name on your property. My grandmother told me this, and it saved my life. Everything I built was in my name. When the marriage ended, I kept everything I'd worked for. If you own something, own it completely. Protect yourself first. Second lesson, document everything. I'm a forensic accountant, so this comes naturally to me. But everyone should know where their money goes. Check your statements. Know your passwords. Never let someone else control your finances completely. The paper trail doesn't lie. Third lesson, your silence protects liars. I kept quiet for months while I gathered evidence. That was strategic. But for years before that, I kept quiet because I didn't want to rock the boat. That silence gave Damon room to lie bigger and steal more. Speaking up is uncomfortable. Do it anyway. Fourth lesson, you don't need anyone to complete you. I thought I needed a husband to be whole, thought I needed to be married to matter, but everything good in my life I built myself. The career, the house, the savings, the family. A partner should add to your life, not be your whole life. Fifth lesson, the right people will help you. I didn't expose Damon alone. I had Tanya for legal strategy, Shelley for investigation, Pat for access, my mother for safe storage, Jasper for courage. You don't have to fight alone. Find your people. Let them help you. So that's my story. I married a man who spent 10 years using me. He cheated with a woman from a prominent family. He spent $47,000 of my dollars on their affair. He was about to announce his engagement while still married to me, and I stopped him, publicly, dramatically, with receipts. He ended up broke, unemployed, living in a studio apartment. She ended up disinherited, disgraced, working retail. I ended up promoted, peaceful, and finally free. That red lace teddy, the one that started this whole thing, I kept it, not to wear. As a reminder, it sits in a drawer in my closet. $890 of evidence that changed my life. Every time I doubt myself, every time I wonder if I did the right thing, I open that drawer and remember, I trusted my instincts, I gathered my evidence, I told the truth, and I won. If you're in a situation like mine, you can win too. Trust yourself. Document everything. Find your sister circle. And when the time is right, don't be afraid to burn it all down, because on the other side of destruction is freedom. And freedom is worth everything. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and what lesson hit you the hardest. And share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who might be in a marriage like mine was, someone who might need permission to fight back. Because that's how we change things, one story at a time, one woman at a time, one truth at a time. My name is Veronica Pierce. I'm 39 years old. I'm a forensic accountant, a mother, a friend, and a survivor. And I hope my story helps you become one too. Stay blessed, stay smart, and always, always keep receipts.